welcome back. What we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and start cutting our sock creatures items out. The first thing that you want to do, take your second appendage sock. If you still have it out, put it up in your bag. Your bag of materials should have your name on it with Sharpie. The best thing to have is a Ziploc bag with the zipper on it instead of just the seal. And alright, so I'm going to start here. So my first question, should I cut this off? No, it's the neck. So don't cut this off. Leave it. Okay, again, I just drew it there so that just as a reminder to show you guys proportion and scale. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and this is excess sock that I do not need because I want my legs to be this long. And I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. It's best to have fabric scissors, but you can use what scissors you have. I'm going to take my time. You don't need to go crazy and rush through it. Okay? Now, another common mistake that I often see, if this is my gluteus maximus for my creature, or even my belly, I do not need to take my legs and go all the way up here to the torso and make that cut all the way up there. You have to stop right here, or it's going to look kind of funny. Now, if your creature looks different and it applies to your creature to do that, that's fine. But if it's something that is a normal animal and you want to make it look semi-realistic, follow the rule of not cutting through the heel of the sock. So again, I'm going to make sure that this, I often also see that students will sometimes get the sock a little bit messed up to where the line is a little bit like that and they start cutting so it's not even. You need to make sure that it is centered, that the line is centered, because you want your legs, when you cut them, to be the same width. And I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. Alright, now I'm going to stop. Again, my sock is on the inside out. Okay, and now it's time to start sewing. So, I always like to start with the legs, especially on the body. If you're starting with something else, say you don't have legs, and say you're doing a penguin, for example, cut all this off. You're going to sew that closed first. However, when you sew it, you always leave a hole so that you can turn your sock inside out and then stuff it. Okay? So the first thing that you need to learn when you are starting to sew. Several people have different methods of threading a needle and tying a knot and all that. The thing that I have found that works best for beginning sewers is you have your needle, and I'm going to zoom in on this. Okay, there's your needle. This is a tiny needle. If you have a very big, thick needle, that's a yarning needle. That's not what you need. You need a tiny needle that's going to go through very thin fabric. You have the needle, and then you have the little hole in there, and that's called the eye. You're going to take about a yard of thread off the spool. What I want you to do is go ahead, hold the string, the end of the string right here, in one hand. Then you're going to hold this, let me zoom out. Hold the thread between these two fingers. So here's my thread. I'm going to put it between my ring and my index and my middle finger. I have the spool in the palm of my hand. Now I'm going to pull all the way out, and I'm going to extend both arms. And you can't see this, but I'm actually extending my other arm to where I'm pulling my arms length wide. Okay, so now I actually have about a yard, and I'm going to cut it off. Okay, so here is, ta-da, all of my string. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to straighten it all out. Be very careful that you don't get a knot in it. If you get a knot, get a new piece of string. Okay, zoom back in. When you start sewing, okay, this is the hard part. First off, picking up your needle. I know that sounds funny, but a lot of times students have trouble with it, so I'm just going to cover that fact. Be very careful when you pick up the needle. The easiest way for me to do it, I don't have nails, so take your thumb, put it at the base, and then take your index finger and very gently, like what you're doing is you're basically pressing down on the eye of the needle to where it kind of lifts up that end of the needle off of the paper. You can actually see the shadow right there. And then you're going to get your index finger and you're just going to poke very gently. I'm not saying stab yourself, just very gently to where it actually touches your skin and gets a grip. And then you pick it up like that. There you go. Okay. So, there's my needle. I'm going to zoom back in. Another thing that tends to be an issue when you're threading. Come on, zoom. Alright. Is if the end of your string right here is frayed, it's going to be very hard for you to stick it in the eye of the needle because the eye is actually very tiny on these needles. So if you need to, just go ahead, get some nice scissors, and just cut a fresh slice. Okay, I just took a little bit, oops, so let me do that again. So, just cut a little bit off, okay, to where it's nice and clean cut. Then, I see students who hold their thread all the way out here, like this. Do I have much control over that thread? No. The closer you hold it to the end of the thread, the more you're going to have. So I'm going to get really close to the end. I'm going to pick up my needle. Alright. And then I'm going to go ahead and slowly put it through. However, I'm old, so it's a little harder to do this further away. Okay. Now, another thing that I hear a lot of students learn that I don't like is that they take it and then they tie it right here. Like, just do it like they do a close-up knot right here. Don't do that. The reason why I'm saying that is because you have a very thin piece of string. When you start sewing with it, it's going to break easily. So, another thing is this little knot. If you put one close to the end of the needle, it gets stuck. So just don't put a knot. What you're going to do is you're going to take the end, you're going to pull your needle out, and basically you're going to match the ends of the string. Okay? So do you see how I've matched the ends? So now I'm sewing with 2 pieces of string. Okay? There's no knot. I don't have any knot in there. It's just one nice piece. So I'm going to zoom back out. Okay? So do you see how it's just nice and straight. It's together. Ta-da. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing my legs. The first thing that you have to do, anytime you start sewing any appendage, because we don't have a knot in this, there's nothing to stop it. And to attach it to your leg, or whatever appendage you're sewing, you're going to take it from the furthest outside corner, and you're going to sew it through and tie a knot. But another thing I want to mention is, again, I'm starting over here. You're going to leave a hole right here so where you can stuff your stuffing in, as well as to turn your sock inside out. Same thing with your arms. You're going to start at this corner. Match up your edges of your fabric to make sure that your leg is nice and neat. I'm going to, let me zoom in on it. There you go. So, I'm going to, at this very corner, I'm going to put my needle through. Again, I'm going to give it a seam allowance, so that way if I put it again at this edge, Okay, my needle can usually break through. You don't want to do that. You want to have, again, a little bit out. And this is about a centimeter right here. I'm probably going to do about half of a centimeter.